Don't wait up. Everyone's at my promotion party instead. Oh, and by the way, I put the $4,800 dinner on your card. Hope that's fine. That was the text that lit up my phone screen at 8:10 p.m. The words from my brother Ethan stacked like dirty dishes I'd never served, each one heavier than the last. I was standing in the banquet hall I had rented with my own money, staring at 60 name cards I had handwritten myself. Candles lined the tables in 2 neat rows waiting to be lit. Balloons bobbed against the rafters as though even they wanted to escape. The air conditioning hissed against the silence. Help our channel reach our first 1,000 subscribers by liking and subscribing. Your support is what keeps us going and allows us to continue telling inspiring stories of justice, healing, and self-worth. Now let's get back to the story. My name is Lauren Parker. I'm 28 years old. The responsible one. The reliable daughter. The one who remembers everyone else's birthdays. The one who covers when bills go missing. The one who makes sure things don't fall apart. Even tonight, my own birthday, I had organized everything down to the last fork. And yet, here I was. Alone. It hit me in fragments, not in one big wave. The empty chairs. The untouched cake with buttercream roses drooping at the edges. Wax dripping down unlit wicks like tear tracks. A DJ playlist humming softly against the cinderblock walls. Cheerful songs that now sounded like lies. I picked up my phone again, staring at Ethan's message. He was at his promotion party, thrown in his honor, with my parents by his side. And the dinner? He had the audacity to charge it to my credit card, just like he had so many times before. My mother, Karen, had already loved his post on social media. My father, Robert, no doubt raised a glass to toast his golden son. And me? I was the afterthought. The family wallet. The empty chair at their real celebration. I could have called them. I could have begged them to remember me. But instead I poured sparkling water into a champagne flute, listening to the fizz die out. I set it down beside the untouched cake, its sugary scent thick in the air. The betrayal didn't crash over me all at once. It crept in quietly, the clink of unused forks, the squeak of a serving cart with no purpose, the echo in a room built for laughter I had paid for at 8:30. Another notification flashed. Ethan again. This time a photo. Him sitting on someone's shoulders, champagne spraying midair, his smile wide, his caption bragging about his self-made success. Self-made. My jaw clenched. I looked at the cake. I wasn't going to let it rot untouched. I lifted the knife and cut a single slice, plated it neatly, and sat down to eat. The sponge gave way with a sigh, the sound of a good cake giving up its shape. I chewed, tasting sugar with something metallic underneath. Humiliation, maybe. Across the white linen, my laptop glowed open. On its screen sat a neat timeline window, my cursor hovering. I had spent months quietly gathering evidence. Receipts signed by my mother with my card. Texts from Ethan asking me to just cover it this time. Voicemails dripping with apologies that hardened into patterns. Every screenshot, every bank statement stacked neatly in digital folders, waiting that I wasn't dramatic. I was precise, and in that empty hall, surrounded by 60 untouched chairs, I began editing. By midnight, I had layered receipts over audio clips, matched dates to texts, and even added B-roll I filmed of the empty room. My voiceover was steady, surgical almost, as I narrated what years of being the responsible one had really cost me. 3:47 a.m., the export finished. I copied the link into my family group chat. Watch this before sunrise. The message sat there, glowing blue beneath my name. The candles on the cake were still unlit, the room holding its breath as if it knew the next spark wouldn't come from a match, but from a screen. For a long moment, nothing. No replies, no angry calls, no laughing emojis. Just silence. The kind of silence that hums against your skin, heavy and expectant. Then at 3:51, Dad broke first. "What is this?" I smiled slowly. The first response is always confusion, not guilt that I didn't answer. Instead, I refreshed the shared drive where I'd uploaded the video. The viewer count ticked upward like a heartbeat. I leaned back in the chair, the empty hall echoing like a cathedral of broken promises. My laptop fan whirred softly, the sound steady, almost supportive. On my phone, I watched the 3 dots appear, vanish, appear again. Someone was typing, struggling to find words. Then gone. The silence was almost sweet. I whispered to myself, steady and calm. Not invisible anymore. By 4 a.m., The view counter on my shared link had already ticked into double digits. I knew exactly who was watching. Mom Karen Parker was probably pacing in her silk robe, muttering about family unity. Dad Robert Parker would be frowning, jaw tight, trying to figure out whether this was just a tantrum or something that could actually damage his reputation. And Ethan? He would be scrambling, calling his friends to ask if they'd seen it yet, praying the story hadn't reached his office. The first reply came at 4:07 a.m. Karen. Lauren, take this down right now. Her words glowed on the screen, stern but shaking. I could almost hear the clip tone she used whenever she thought she could still control me. I traced the edge of the untouched cake box with my finger. The frosting flowers had already wilted under the night's heat. I whispered no at 4:15. Ethan finally cracked. Ethan, you're ruining me. Do you even know what you've done? I typed nothing. I didn't need to. The video was already speaking louder than I ever could. Because this wasn't a rant, it was a film. I had cut it clean, every frame stitched with undeniable proof. Photos of receipts my mother had signed with my card. Screenshots of late-night messages. Just cover it for me, sweetheart. I'll pay you back. Weeks later, silence. Vacations Ethan bragged about on Instagram with captions like hard work pays off, while my paycheck footed the bill. But the part one knew would slice the deepest came halfway through. A single still image of me blowing out a lone birthday candle last year in the kitchen, recorded on my phone, no one around. Right after, I'd cut to footage of Ethan's promotion toast. Our parents clapping, champagne glasses raised. Over it, my narration. Neglect leaves fingerprints louder than hands ever could. The comments had already begun piling in before dawn. Strangers writing words like parasites, betrayal, cruel family. Shares, retweets. The algorithm always smelled raw truth. Q430, the family group chat looked like a war zone. Aunt Debbie. Why would you humiliate your own family like this? Cousin Rachel. Delete it before people at church see. Uncle David. Lauren, this isn't how families handle problems. But it was too late. People had already seen that I sat in that cavernous hall with 60 empty chairs, the silence vibrating with a strange new energy. For once, I wasn't the invisible one. They were. My truth had made them small. By 5 o'clock, Ethan tried again. Ethan, you don't understand. This ruins my promotion. People at work are watching. They'll think I'm a fraud. I typed slowly. They won't have to think. The silence that followed was storm-thick. Like the air before lightning cracks, I closed my laptop and walked to the balcony doors. Cold morning air wrapped around me like a warning and a promise. Down below, the city slept, but my family was burning. I thought about all the birthdays they'd stolen from me, the candles blown out in empty kitchens, the vacations where I was told, someone has to stay and work. For years I swallowed it. I told myself I was strong enough. But strength didn't mean silence. The cake sat lonely inside, but I wasn't lonely anymore. My voice was out there, amplified by strangers pressing share. By sunrise, the group chat's tone had shifted. Panic had burned itself out, replaced by bargaining. Robert, you're being dramatic. Family handles these things privately. Karen, we could have just asked for the money back. Ethan, delete it. I'll make it right. I swear. I read each one calmly, the same way I'd sliced that cake, slow, deliberate, unshakable. They didn't realize the video wasn't just out there. It was multiplying. My inbox was already full of messages from strangers. Same. Screenshots of people forwarding the link to friends. Notes from others who'd been used by their families too. The algorithm didn't sleep. Neither did I. 7 a.m. I finally left the rented banquet hall. I carried the empty cake box tucked under my arm like a relic. The DJ's playlist still whispered faintly from the speakers as I shut the door behind me. By mid-morning, my phone was a storm. Former coworkers, classmates, even distant cousins I hadn't spoken to in years were sending me messages. Some were outraged. Others thanked me at 11 a.m. Ethan called directly. His voice cracked through the speaker, thin and panicked. Do you hate me that much? To ruin everything I've built? I let the silence stretch because silence teaches. Then I answered steady. Everything you built was on me. He cursed under his breath. Muttered something about HR, about losing his bonus, about whispers in his office. Every word sounded like justice finally balancing the scales. By afternoon, Karen showed up at my apartment. She didn't knock, just stood there in the hallway, hair messy, eyes red. She held her phone like a lifeline. "Delete it," she whispered. "Please. Your father hasn't slept. Your brother is falling apart. Do you really want that on your conscience?" I studied her face. This was the same woman who once told me I was too sensitive when they forgot my 21st. The same woman who signed my card as if it were hers. For the first time, I didn't feel small in front of her. I felt level. "No," I said softly. "What's on my conscience is how you treated me. This," I gestured at her phone, glowing with my video. "This is yours." Her shoulders sagged as if the weight finally landed. She looked older, fragile in a way I'd never thought possible. When she turned away, I knew the story had only just begun tightening around them. By 12 o'clock noon, the family chat went eerily silent. No new messages. No calls. Just that heavy stillness of people realizing their power had slipped away. I could picture them huddled in my parents' living room, whispering strategies, plotting to paint me as the villain. But I didn't wait for their version to surface, because I was already working on the second upload. By early afternoon, the Parker family group chat was silent. No more threats, no more bargaining. Just the quiet of a house where whispers had replaced shouting. But silence never fooled me. I knew them too well. Karen and Robert Parker were probably on the phone with every relative trying to spin the story. Ethan was no doubt drafting a damage control post, pretending everything was fine. They wanted to rewrite the narrative before mine spread too far. I wasn't about to give them the chance. The first video had been receipts, bank statements, texts, undeniable proof. But proof alone was cold. Numbers didn't bleed. To cut deeper, I needed to show people what years of being invisible felt like. So I opened a new editing file. This time I didn't start with documents. I started with photographs. A birthday party when I turned 10. Ethan standing proudly in the center of the photo with a new bike. My cake pushed to the corner, untouched. A family vacation in Florida when I was 16. Ethan beaming in front of Disney fireworks while I stayed home with the excuse, someone has to work. Screenshots of unanswered texts from me. "Can I come too?" Met with nothing but silence. Over it all, I recorded my voice. Calm, steady, sharper than any blade. They called me family when they needed my money. They called me dramatic when I asked for love. The edit came together faster than I expected, as though it had been waiting inside me for years. Every clip, every photo carried its own weight. By the time I added the final frame, last year's single candle burning down to nothing, I felt a strange kind of peace. At 1:30 p.m. I hit upload. Within minutes, the view count surged. By 2 o'clock, the comments section was alive. This was my childhood too. I feel this in my bones. Same. Thousands of strangers, different names, different faces, but the same wounds. My pain had become a mirrored. 1:43 p.m. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. "Dad." Robert Parker's voice, usually booming with authority, was thin, ragged. "Lauren, you're destroying us. People at church are talking. Our friends." I cut in, my tone sharper than I'd ever used with him before. "You mean the friends who laughed at Ethan's promotion toast while I blew out candles alone? Those friends." Silence. He didn't answer because he couldn't. By 3 p.m. Ethan's face had started showing up on gossip blogs. Coworkers tagging each other in my video, dissecting every frame. No matter how much he tried to deny it, the evidence was airtight. Screenshots spread faster than his excuses. Karen called next. Her voice trembled, but not from guilt, from fear. "Lauren, please. People are showing up at church with printouts of your video. Your brother, he's been suspended. Your father can't go to work without whispers." Her words tumbled out like water from a broken dam. But I just listened, calm and unshaken. "You wanted to know what I wanted," I said softly. "I wanted you to feel what I felt. And now you do." The line went silent. By evening, I lit the leftover candles on the cake. Alone again, yes, but for the first time I didn't feel invisible. Each flame felt like a witness flickering its approval across the quiet room. I whispered to myself. They took my birthdays. I gave them their reckoning. And then, as the wax dripped slow rivers onto the icing, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from Karen. "Karen, you've made your point. What do you want from us?" I stared at the screen, the candlelight reflected in my eyes. For the first time, I realized the answer wasn't money. It wasn't repayment for the thousands they'd siphoned from me. It was something heavier. What do I want from them? I wanted them to see themselves. I wanted them to feel what it was like to be me all those years, unseen, unheard, unwanted. But they didn't ask for truth. They asked for negotiation. The language of people who had never truly seen me as human. I typed nothing back. Instead, I opened my laptop again. The first video was receipts. The second was memories. The third I decided would be truth so sharp it left scars. I dragged the first clip into the timeline. Footage of the banquet hall from last night. 60 empty chairs. A cake untouched. Balloons sagging in silence. This time the world wouldn't just hear my story. They would feel it. By 6:30 p.m., the second video had crossed 500,000 views. My inbox was flooded with strangers saying same, sharing their own scars. But I wasn't done, not yet. The first upload had been cold receipts. The second had been memory, proof of neglect. The third needed to cut deeper. So I started with silence. The opening shot, the banquet hall from last night. 60 empty chairs. A cake untouched. Balloons sagging. The camera panned slowly, letting every second feel heavy. Then I layered the texts. Ethan's mocking, don't wait up. Karen's casual. It was just easier to put it on your card. Robert's tight, family handles these things privately. The contrast was brutal. Over it, my narration, calm and low, the kind of tone you find only when begging has died out of your body. They said I was family. Yet I was left alone on the night I was born into their lives. Again and again they chose him. Again and again they emptied me out. But I kept giving, thinking one day it would mean I belonged. The timeline bar crawled forward as I exported. My hands didn't shake this time. They were steady, surgical. At 7 p.m. the third video went live. And it caught fire instantly, not just comments this time. Hashtags. Threads. Duets of people pointing at the empty chairs saying, "This was me." Strangers recording their own stories. Birthdays spent alone. Siblings praised while they worked in the shadows. By 7:42, Ethan called again. His voice was cracked with desperation. "You don't get it, Lauren. They're talking about firing me. Sponsors are pulling out. You'll ruin me." I cut him off. "You ruined yourself the moment you decided my worth was a wallet, not a sister." Silence. I could hear him swallow. Then the line went dead. By 8 o'clock, Robert sent a single text, "Robert, enough. You've made your point." But I hadn't. Because this was never about making a point. This was about years of candles blown out in shadows, years of being told family means sacrifice, while they drained me dry. The world deserved to see every piece of it. By midnight, the Parker family's silence wasn't strategy anymore. It was collapse. My phone buzzed with notifications from news outlets asking for interviews, podcasts requesting guest spots, strangers thanking me for saying what they never could. Meanwhile, the family chat sat dead, unread. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Instead, I set up the fourth and final edit. Not anger this time, not vengeance. Just closure. But before that, I wanted them to sit in the burn a little longer. I lit the leftover cake candles one by one, each tiny flame reflecting in my eyes like a crown of fire. Alone in my apartment, I whispered to myself, "They took my birthdays. I gave them their reckoning." And for the first time in my life, the silence around me didn't feel heavy. It felt free. By sunrise, the third video had crossed 2 million views. My phone was a storm of notifications, comments, reposts, news anchors tagging me, even strangers calling me brave. But I wasn't chasing fame. I was chasing freedom. The first video had been receipts. The second had been memories. The third had been truth sharpened to a blade. Now the fourth had to be closure. I set my tripod in the empty banquet hall one last time. The chairs were still pushed back like ghosts, the air still faintly sweet from the abandoned cake. I sat at the center table wearing no makeup, no theatrics, just me. In front of me, one slice of cake with candles burning low. The camera rolled. My voice was quiet but clear. For years, I thought if I worked harder, gave more, stayed silent, they'd finally choose me. But I was never chosen. I was used. And this year, on the night they abandoned me, I chose myself. Then I leaned forward, blew out the candles, and let the smoke curl upward like the last thread of the past unraveling. Fade to black. 8 a.m. sharp. I hit upload to by 8:06. My phone lit up. First, Karen. Her voice was wrecked, frayed like fabric torn too many times. Lauren, please. People are showing up at church with printouts of your videos. We can't breathe. Ethan's been suspended. Your father, he can't even go to work without whispers. I listened. Not with anger. With calm. You wanted to know what I want, I said softly. I want you to feel what I felt. And now you do. She tried again, sobbing this time. But her words floated weightless, like balloons hitting the ceiling. They no longer had the power to pin me down to by 9 a.m. The final video's view count soared past everything else. The comments were a chorus of same. Thousands of people across the internet whispering my story back to me. That afternoon, Ethan called. Not angry this time. Desperate. Lauren, you win, okay? Just delete them. Please. They're saying my promotion's revoked. My company's reviewing me for fraud. You've ruined me. I let silence drag because silence teaches. Finally, I said. No, Ethan. You ruined yourself the moment you decided I was a credit card instead of your sister. The line went quiet. Then a choked breath. Then nothing. By evening, Robert tried. A text short and sharp. Robert. You've made your point. Enough. But it wasn't enough. Because closure isn't about silencing pain. It's about finally letting it breathe. That night, I lit a single candle in my apartment. Not 60. Not even a cake. Just one flame, steady and calm. I whispered into the dark, not to them but to myself. Happy birthday, Lauren. The smoke rose like freedom when I blew it out. The Parker family group chat stayed dead silent. No new messages. No calls. Just stillness, the kind of stillness that means power has shifted permanently. For once, I wasn't begging to be seen. For once, they were the invisible ones. The morning after my fourth video went live, the world felt different. Not louder, not chaotic, quieter. Like a storm had finally passed, leaving behind the sharp smell of rain and the promise of fresh air. The Parker family group chat was still silent. No apologies. No attacks. Just emptiness, the same emptiness they had given me on birthdays and holidays, returned to them at last. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of that silence. I welcomed it. By midweek, the fallout was everywhere. Ethan's promotion had been revoked. His company released a statement about financial ethics under review. His face was splashed across gossip blogs with headlines that didn't flatter. Karen, my mother who once ruled social circles with a practiced laugh, found herself quietly uninvited from luncheons and charity galas. The same people who had toasted Ethan's rise were now whispering about her signature on receipts that weren't hers. And Robert? The man who said, family handles these things privately? He couldn't walk into work without whispers circling him like flies. His reputation for control had fractured. For years I had been the invisible one. Now it was them. One evening, I opened my mailbox to find a thick envelope addressed in Karen's familiar script. I turned it over in my hands, feeling the weight of whatever excuses or apologies lay inside. Then, without opening it, I dropped it straight into the recycling bin. Not because I hated her. Not because I wanted revenge. But because for once I didn't need to read her words to know my worth. Closure doesn't always come in conversations. Sometimes it comes in the decision not to open the letter at all. A week later, I drove 3 hours into the mountains, winding roads carrying me higher until the air grew thin and crisp. And there it was, my cabin. My dream. Wood beams glowing in the afternoon sun. Pines standing tall like guardians. A deck that overlooked endless ridges. The horizon painted in shades of gold and violet. Independent Ridge. The name couldn't have been more perfect. I unlocked the door with keys that jingled like freedom. The cabin smelled of cedar and promise. In the fireplace, logs waited to be lit. On the kitchen counter, the realtor had left a small welcome basket. Coffee, honey, and a handwritten note. Here's to your new beginning. I stood in the center of that cabin and realized something I had never dared believe. This was mine. Paid for with my sweat, my hours, my sacrifices. Not theirs. Not stolen. Mine. That night, I lit a fire and sat by the window, looking out at the mountains. For years, I had thought belonging meant being chosen. I thought love had to be earned with obedience, silence, and endless giving. But here, in the quiet glow of my cabin, I understood. True belonging begins when you choose yourself. I wasn't ruined by their betrayal. I was remade by it. On my 29th birthday, nearly a year later, I returned to that same banquet hall, not as their wallet, not as their afterthought, but as a guest speaker for a nonprofit that helps children estranged from toxic families. The room was full this time. Not with people who used me, but with people who saw me. When I blew out the candles that year, surrounded by strangers who clapped and smiled, I realized something vital. They hadn't stolen my birthdays. They had only delayed them. The Parkers still live in their silence. Karen sometimes tries to text. Robert sent one curt email. Ethan hasn't called since that desperate night. But I don't need their words anymore, that I have my own. And the sweetest revenge isn't destruction. It's freedom. Freedom that wears my name. Sparkles, thank you for listening to Lauren Parker's story here on Revenge Amy. Every view, every comment, every share means the world. If her journey of resilience touched you, please hit that subscribe button and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps these stories alive and reminds us all that even in betrayal, we can rise stronger.